The Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
1490 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network, which is brought to you by Miles Franklin. They've been in business selling gold and silver for over 20 years, and I'm a customer because when you buy, they ship. For more information, find them on the web at milesfranklin.com or give them a call at 800-822-8080 and get a free quote. Welcome back. This is Carrie Lutz. With me is George Matheis. He's an expert in personal protection and security. We got so many requests to have this type of guest that we're giving George the opportunity to tell you how to protect your family, your home, and yourself. Hey, George, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Carrie. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Tired, end of the day. But we wanted to get you on because you've got valuable information that I think all of you out there need to hear and get ready for. So, George, basically describe what you do.
I run modern combative systems. What we do, we provide personal protection and preparedness training to law enforcement, military, and civilians. That's everything from open-hand combatives, edged weapons, firearms, high-threat driving, urban survival, and outdoor survival.
And those skills look like they're becoming more and more necessary right here at home in the U.S., don't they?
Yeah, they do, Carrie. I'll tell you, recently, I'd say more so in probably about the last 6 months to a year, I'm getting a lot more requests to do private training from families.
Really? Well, why does that not surprise me? So, so you're a family. You've got a couple of kids, or maybe you're elderly, you're an empty nester. What do you do to prepare, George?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do, like you said, is define what your needs are and not try to look around on the internet and find things that are cookie cutter. You need to look at, where you live. The first thing that comes to mind is I think that, if something should happen, probably one of the first things that would drive people out of their house, out of their primary shelter, is going to be a lack of water. So you want to start looking for your alternate water sources. Do you have a pond nearby? Do you have a creek? Even water, some kind of water that can be treated. Because, again, that's probably before food, the things are going to drive you out before anything else. After that, we start looking at first aid, and getting those things online, getting our, if we can store up a little bit of medication and things like that. About that time, when you start to get your act together a little bit, you want to try to get some like-minded people in your area that, maybe in your neighborhood, that if you have a gas leak on your street, you can move over to their house for a couple hours. Or, so maybe there's somebody in the next, town over that if, heaven forbid, you get struck with a tornado or an or not an earthquake, but a tornado or some kind of storm, you have somewhere else that you can go that's not far away, because traveling on the roads is going to be not an easy thing.
So we're not talking about ultimate preppers here. We're talking about things that the ordinary person, every one of you out there, can do, right? Yeah.
That's the thing is I see a lot of people preparing for the end of the world, but they're not really prepared for the day when a situation I had a couple of months ago where your 10-year-old puts their hand through a plate glass window.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're preparing more for unlikelihoods than for likelihoods. And I guess what pops into my mind, George, when I think about preparedness is visions that you had of New Orleans after Katrina. And that's a real legitimate, probable threat in many parts of the country where flooding could take place, social order breaks down because of lack of preparedness by the government, and in that situation, there's only one person you can count on and your family, right?
That's correct. It's going to be all rely on you.
you, and if you're fortunate enough to have neighbors that you met before, which many of us don't, we don't know who lives next to us, let alone down the block. You don't know anyone in your neighborhood. And then you're kind of thrown together with a bunch of people who you really don't know what their capabilities are or what their values are or anything else. So the time to prepare is when?
It's definitely right now.
And we're not even talking political insurrections or anything else, just for life's curveballs that get tossed at you from time to time. And look at those people in Japan. I don't know how many of them were prepared. Obviously, they're prepared for earthquakes. I don't know that they were prepared for tsunamis. And you really need to get ready because you don't know when nature is going to deal you snake eyes or craps.
Yeah, that's true. I think what a lot of people need to do is, nobody wants to look abnormal or, like the weirdo wearing a tinfoil hat. So if you can identify some people at work or some people who live close to you, what I've done locally is I started my own little mutual assistance group, and the way that we keep up with each other is we simply go on, we formed a Google group, and by doing that, we know, little things like, all the phone numbers for everybody, where the husband and wife works, where the kids go to school, and things like that. Last Florida situation, I live in Pennsylvania, where I live on a dead-end road that got flooded out, and my kids got all let out of school early, but no way to get home. So with a couple of phone calls to people in the church and other friends, and we had 3 different kids getting picked up by 3 different people going to 3 different houses, and it all worked pretty seamlessly.
Yeah. And, people, when they're thinking of preparedness, they're always thinking about firearms, personal protection. Certainly that's a part of the equation, but it's not the whole thing or even the largest part of it, is it?
No, it's not.
So
it really comes down to, your mindset, understanding what your needs are. And, I make a joke that a lot of people have these, trauma first aid kits, and they have things that maybe treat a gunshot wound, but they don't have any Band-Aids.
Or aspirin or minor painkillers
every day.
Yeah. Well, so you go to Costco because you want to stock up. What do you throw in your shopping cart, George?
For me, I think one of the first things I'm going to get is, some cases of water. You want to make sure, however you get your water, that it's stored in clear containers. You don't want anything. You don't want to store water in anything like a milk container because you want totally clear because the higher grade plastic. So you definitely want to have some water on hand. Even if you have a water source close, you definitely want to get some drinking water. I'm a huge fan of stocking up on the toilet paper because what might be easy for us will not be so pleasant for our wife and kids. You want to grab a bunch of baby wipes because one of the first things that's going to get people sick in a survival situation is infection. If you have a bunch of baby wipes, then at least you can wipe yourself down with those, just like when I was in the Army, like we did in the field. Keep yourself clean.
Right, makes sense. What about a water filter? Is that a good piece of equipment to have on hand? I
really like the idea of water filters, but not as a primary way to get water. And the reason I say that is all water filters, they have a replacement filter, and how long is that thing going to last? So if you do buy one of the high-end ones, then you're going to want to get one of the replacement filters for it. I'm a huge fan of actually have right in front of me here. There's a company named Frontier, and they make a survival straw. And this little thing is pretty cool because what it does, it actually screws right into the top of any water bottle you buy at any convenience store, and it allows you to drink up to 20 gallons of water.
Wow, that
sounds
great.
Yeah, they're about $10. It's called the Frontier Emergency Water Filter System. And it weighs less than an ounce, and it's something that everybody should have on hand. Everybody should have one, at least one on hand for everybody in their family. We have one in, all the kids' bags, our camping bags and things like that. But that's the first step. And then after you get past there, you can be looking at a serious filter. But 20 gallons of drinking water is going to be pretty good for most people in a typical 72-hour situation before the government or you have other friends that can come help you.
Yeah, and about that government, and we'll continue more on the shopping list because I think that's important. But, you know, the government, how prepared are they for the types of challenges that we can potentially face here? You work with them. You know what their training is. How much can we really count on them?
We can't count on them very much, Kerry, because the reason is there's X amount of police, firefighters, and EMS working at any given time. If you picture your major city, or even where I live rurally, so we have a lot of volunteer. You have one or two bad car accidents, or one bad explosion. You've got a lot of people that will be stuck at what we call TCPs, traffic control points, if nothing else, diverting traffic from going in those directions. That ties people up. People are very used to dialing 911, and they're used to getting a response. Well, that's the response that you get when they have somebody to send. When you get a situation like where they have blackouts, you have storms and things, they start stacking calls. And if you can't take care of yourself, there's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So getting back to the shopping list, so we've got these water filters, and also I'm going to ask you to put together a list, and anyone who wants it can just send me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com, or sign up on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com website. We'll put that in with the Financial Survival Toolkit. So what else do we need in that shopping list, George?
Okay. You're definitely going to want not so much a Costco thing, but you're definitely going to make sure that you have a source for fuel. I happen to be lucky enough to live in a place where I have a fire pit in the front yard, but if you don't, you want to make sure that you have your propane grill or your Coleman stove. I really, really like things that run on the little 1 pound things of propane. It's going to, let you boil some water. It's going to let you cook some food next to having your food and water. I think another thing that a lot of people really overlook a lot is just getting yourself some of those big blue tarps that you can buy at hardware stores. Because what happens is if you have a situation in the wintertime where the power goes out, you can actually put those up over all windows on one wall and insulate your house. If you have storm damage, same thing. You can actually use that to close in your shelter. There's a lot of stuff that you can do if you do have times of civil insurrection, people are looting the street. It also would stop people from being able to see into your residence at night, when you have a flame going.
Right, and that's something that you want to keep a low profile in that type of situation, don't you?
Yeah, you do not want anybody to know what you have. And while we're on that subject, Carrie, I know there's a lot of people out there who believe that when something happens, they're going to have the opportunity to go out and they're going to bug out to some unknown location. That's probably not going to happen, and if it does, you're going to have a lot of problems. For those that have a wife and kids, imagine telling them under the best case circumstances, we're leaving for an unknown period of time. We're going to go camping for 3 days, say, get all your stuff.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out real well. And when you're going down the road and you look like a refugee and they see all your new shiny gear strapped to the top of your SUV and, they know that you've got food and water, et cetera, all you become is a target. Your best bet when you can is always going to be shelter in place.
Yeah, stay at home where you're familiar with your surroundings and potential threats, easier to defend. So we've got our tarps, and what is the one thing, if you had to tell people to buy one thing that they will find the most useful in such a situation, what would it be?
I'd probably say a Leatherman multi-tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a couple things going on for it. One, it's got a can opener for it, And if there's no electricity and you don't have a can opener, you have a bunch of canned goods, they're kind of hard to get open. So I like that. And I like the fact that there's a lot of things that you're going to need to do as far as, rigging things up and dealing with stuff. And tools are one of those things that are heavy and are hard for people to take with them. So if you have something small in your kit, like a Leatherman super tool along those lines, you want to keep one handy, because I use mine every day, day in and day out. It's amazing. And under a real life emergency, you're going to use the same things that you would use every other day. They're just going to be a lot harder to come by.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I always have like a little Swiss Army penknife in my pocket, and that
Right.
thing, I use it constantly. But the Leatherman has got a lot more useful tools on it that can really come in handy. So summing it up, George, when you're making your plan, what should you really be focusing on?
You want to focus on the things that are most likely to affect you first. I live in Pennsylvania, so I'm not really worried about tornadoes. Deal with the things that are most likely, and those things are going to change throughout the year. I'm not really worried right now about getting a big snowstorm. I'm worried about, thunderstorms, knocking out power, and those things. And think about that, and just think of what you would need to survive any situation where you'd have to be on your own for food, shelter, and water for up to 72 hours. Once you get to 72 hours, then take it to a week, and then take it to a month. But don't become overwhelmed when you start planning it and just throw your hands up in the air and say, I can't do this, because you can do this, but you really got to take baby steps.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So you do the basics first, get them out of the way, and then you'll feel a bit more confident, and you'll be able to tackle the longer term concerns, which I think longer term, you're going to have to look a lot more at community than individual preparation. Community preparation, really the key there. Well, George, for people who want to learn more about what you're doing and to prepare for any unexpected disaster, wherever it may come from, whether it's natural or man-made or a combination of the two, how do they learn more about you?
You can just visit me on the web at moderncombative-systems.com. And when you get on the website, upper left-hand corner, you can click on my blog, and I write a lot of articles for a lot of different subjects, and I'm also a contributing writer for Self-Reliance magazine. And if you Google my name, George Matheis, Matheis, you'll get a lot of things that I've written, and I'd be happy to help anybody out with any information I can provide.
Hey, we really appreciate your coming on the Financial Survival Network, George. It's been real informative, especially for me. I'm somewhat prepared, but not nearly enough. And now I have to go focus on just being prepared for those relatively minor occurrences, let alone the major ones, which in many respects there's no preparing for. But hey, we'll have you on again soon, George, talk more about this subject and others. And we really appreciate your being on.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me, Kerry.
All right. You be well.